Welcome to the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep and talk about the art of leadership. My name is Virgil Sierra, and today we're sitting down with Paul Godin. Paul has a Master's of Arts in Strategic Leadership and is the founder of 76 Consulting. In this episode, we'll talk about Paul's new book, Uncut Gems, and break down practical strategies on how leaders can discover, develop, and deploy the uncut diamonds in their organization. So, lean in, leaders, and let's get started. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep, we get our hands dirty, we talk about this art called leadership. My name is Virgil Sierra, lead pastor of Vertical Church, aka Iglesia Vertical in South Florida. We are one church, two languages. I'm your host here on the AVAIL podcast, and all I can say is amazing, amazing, amazing. We have amazing leaders that connect with us, authors, people who are making an impact in the kingdom, for the kingdom, through the marketplace, through ministry. Today we're sitting down with Paul Godin. Paul, it is so good to have you on the AVAIL podcast. How you feeling?
So good to be here. Thanks for having me, Pastor Virgil.
I have enjoyed getting to know you and talking a little bit about just what God's doing in your life. I know that we're going to highlight your new book, Uncut Gems, which let me tell everybody, all the leaders, you're going to want to lean in on this. Uncut Gems, discovering, developing, and deploying the diamonds around you. I love the illustrations. I love the heart of it. Before we jump into the book, I would love for our AVAIL audience to get to know a little bit about who is Paul Godin, what do you do, and what are you passionate about?
Yeah, my name is Paul Godin, husband of 26 years, father to 4, including my son-in-law, and I'm a grandfather to 1 amazing little boy. My wife and I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon specifically, but we raised our family in San Antonio, Texas, and then we migrated to Southwest Virginia now. So a 3,000-mile migration from left coast to east coast.
So what are you passionate about?
Passionate about lots of things. I mean, most people who know me know I'm extremely relational. I'm an artist, musician, bilingual. I travel a lot and do a lot of teaching. So I'm passionate about that at the end of the day. Family, Jesus, love scuba diving, love performing live music, traveling the world. But yeah, man, Jesus and family, that sums up a lot of it.
So we have a few things in common, you and I, because I play guitar. I was
Awesome.
the singer of a Spanish Christian band called Contagious for many years. So soy músico también, hablo
And,
español, just like
and
you.
originalmente de Colombia.
De Colombia.
Sí, I
Muy
love it.
bien, muy bien. I love it. Hey, Paul, I want to jump right in
Yeah, let's
because
do
I
it.
think that it's going to be so valuable for our AVAIL audience to hear your heart in this book. So your new book, Uncut Gems, Discovering, Developing, and Deploying the Diamonds Around You. Talk to us about the inspiration behind the book.
Yeah, I think I've always been a people person, and I refer in this book to the people that we work with as human capital. And I always have believed that they're the most important asset we had in an organization. So
Yep.
when I speak with leaders about providing employment, that's providing dignity of work, financial means to care for their family. They can be intentional about how they bring people on board and offboard them or release them through their best assignment out there in the marketplace. I've always asked these questions, even as an entry-level young man. I was always just curious about how everything connected, about finding the right fit, keeping people in a role long-term. It's just always been there for me. But early on, Virgil, I didn't feel I had the positional power or a audience or a larger audience to share my findings or trends. This book has actually been percolating in my heart for about 20 years, but I just kind
Wow.
of tested it in like micro incubated areas, a lot of different social circles and spaces, but I found commonality and I found validity to it. And so I finally collected it all together and put out this book. But that's my passion. It's ultimately to help leaders realize that they have existing talent underneath their feet, and there are some real cost savings and some benefits and loyalty and longevity to working with what you have. But it's much like parenting. You have to do the investment, as opposed to what we're gonna unpack a little bit later, contrasting importing talent or developing the talent underneath you. So that's my passion.
I love that. You know, it's interesting because as a pastor, right, and those who are
Yeah.
pastors and ministry leaders know that you end up kind of like a CEO, kind of like a
You are.
leader of an organization
Very
that,
much
that
so.
maybe is
Some people don't
ministry
like
and
that language, but it's
yeah,
accurate.
it's just a reality, especially if you have a big vision and God's called
100%.
you to lead a thriving, growing church or organization or ministry or or just business, right? And I think there's something powerful about that. And whether you're a pastor in ministry, whether you're a business owner leading a company, or whether you're in a non-for-profit or an organization where
Yeah.
somehow you have a leadership role, the one truth is that you need people to accomplish the vision. The biggest questions is, who are the people? And once we find them, how do we get them on board? And then how do we develop them? And then how do we keep them? And how do we treat them with love and fairness? And how do we keep them from moving somewhere? All these things are
Yep.
huge things that keep people up at night. And I think it's so important to learn. So I love that you have a passion for it, but even more, I love that you wrote a book about it. So,
No.
so who are you? Who did you have in mind as you wrote this book?
Yeah, I think there's a handful of applications I can speak to, and a lot of that is filtered through my personal applications. So parents, military professionals who are working on training up their team and having cohesion, non-for-profit and profit leaders. Has pastoral implications, as you said, in the pastoral world or in the religious sector as well as the marketplace.
Ministry.
It has application for sure. I did want to touch on something that you emphasized, just to bring a little clarity, is when you mentioned that we do have to work with people and how we accomplish the vision. 100% yes, but the premise of this book is that I believe parents steward children and need to elevate their children unique to their identity and gifts and sponsor them forward. I believe that employers shouldn't just look for free labor, slave labor, indentured servitude just to accomplish their vision. It should be mutually beneficial and profitable, and not just a healthy work culture, but literally, I believe the job of a CEO is to see their people flourish, fundamentally based level. I think when we just go, our mission and
Yeah.
my vision is superior to the people, I think we already are starting to have mission drift.
I like that. Here's what I want you to unpack for us a little bit based on your
Sure.
experience and your findings, and of course, the book. I think that there's this natural tension as a leader. Okay, I need some staff. I need
Yeah.
some human capital, as you call it, right? Do
Right.
I bring somebody in from the
Yep.
outside? Do I raise somebody up from the inside? I think sometimes there's tensions on this, and what's better or what's ideal, or is it both, or does it depend? What are your
No, it's
thoughts?
great,
Because
great
I
question.
also know that sometimes, yeah, sometimes there's companies and organizations that are looking to bring people from over there and from over there and from over there, but that also could be dangerous. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so fundamentally, I believe that you need to, as a leader, as a parent, as in any space, as a CEO, you really need to do the hard work of having cultural clarity for yourself. What are you actually trying to accomplish? What is it going to take to accomplish that? And that's step one. And I know this is going to sound accusatory, but I don't believe many people have done the self-awareness and introspection before they even start. They're already looking at, is
Right.
there a need in the market? How do I get into the market? How do I profit off the market? Oh, I think I need human capital
Right.
to facilitate it. I think you're already behind. And you're going to, at some point, you're going to have to go back and go, we need missional clarity. So first and foremost, know your culture. when you know your culture, you will assess, and one of my steps is surveying. Look at what you already have in the compendium of human capital, and not just where they at in their skill development, their task understanding. Just look who you got, what you have. You can grade them on some sort of level of competency, but just get a handle on that. And then ask yourself, are we better to raise those up? Or where have we hit a threshold that we need an infusion of something else? So in the book, I spend a lot of time unpacking the development side because I think we skip over it. We get a little lazy. We get premature. We get impatient. And we kind of jump the shark. But I acknowledge towards the end of this book, there is a time and place to import talent. You just need to understand when you import talent, with that talent comes culture. And if you prioritize skill and talent over culture, you are going to dilute culture, destroy your culture, and it's going to be a lot more problematic in the long run. I've seen that way too many times.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, again, I'm wrestling with this at times, even as a pastor with a growing church and a growing staff. You know, what's the best call? I do agree with that. I think I lean towards what you just expressed. I lean towards, more times than not, raising up somebody who has our culture, has our DNA as an organization, has been more successful. However, there are those times for an import. So I like that I like that you're bringing that in.
It's both and. Sorry.
I think some organizations get into trouble if they only import. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah, I think when your philosophy is we win based on supposed relevance, highly skilled and focused producers, you basically get, do you remember the dream team that was the fail? There was the dream team that liked each other and they crushed. And then there was the dream team where they got a bunch of individual stars in their own right, super capable, fantastic, but they weren't playing to a system. They weren't playing to a culture. Well, they did have a culture. It was just a self-culture. And it caused cannibalism, infighting, cancer. That's essentially what cancer is. Eating of your own cells. And essentially when businesses do this, you introduce cancer. And I think that's an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way your book is framed, because it's framed with the whole theme of uncut gems and diamonds.
Yeah.
And you have it in 5 main sections, and I love the kind of the progression. Without
Here's a
giving away too
picture.
much of the book, can you, share with us those 5 sections and kind of the progression.
Yeah, so essentially surveying, see the way, excavating, clear the pain, shaping, mean what you say, which is about trust. And then the next ones are setting, give it away, and reproducing, do it all over again. There are some sub-points in that, but essentially the progression is look first. Before you start bringing in, before you start trying to build, do the work. I mean, you understand that in business, they always say location, location, location. You know that when people are building out a franchise or they're looking for that next church location, they've already done demographic studies, market analysis. They know traffic flow. They know neighborhoods. Like, people have done the research well before they ever get into like permitting costs and various things like that. Leaders need to just slow down and do the prerequisite work. And as men of faith, you need to bathe that in prayer and not trying to advance your own agenda too fast. But once you really see what you have and what you could work with, and again, through the filter of culture clarity, let me kind of tickle your ear with this. Every person that you work with, even if they're in your existing organizational culture or in your regional area, and then they're going to bring in, there's probably some pre-existing culture everybody brings to the table. This is how I was raised. This was my work ethic. This is how I approach this. This is my way to handle conflict. People come in with that. But every organization that you start building, they adjust or they fight to a present culture. But leaders are always talking about their aspirational goals, their preferred culture, but then they don't drive it. They just talk about it, and we don't talk about it enough.
Right.
We don't celebrate. You replicate what you celebrate, so you need to like sow vision into these people ahead of time. So in the survey process, like you got to do all the upfront work. You need to know what you're trying to fit for. There are some cultural crucibles I talk about in the book. But then when you actually get to the digging, that excavation is the beginning of pain. And whether you're doing working with person-to-person one-on-one, whether you're working with non-for-profit, whether you're working in, again, that spiritual sector, it doesn't matter. Working with people is messy, and you can't circumvent the time required to work with people to get to the end goal that you want, or it's going to be 50-50 and probably not what you're looking for. You have to curate and dig and excavate. In the excavating world, they call it grading the dirt. You start out by digging holes, but then eventually people fine tune. They take the backhoe and they gently scrape like an artist, or with a rake and a shovel. Like, it's manicured dirt still. It's ugly, but they still know how to level it right. Excavating is beginning the process of clearing the pain, unearthing the obstacles in people's lives. And then after you kind of get into it, all the haters now, or the late adopters, are like, oh, Virgil's not insane. There's actually talent there. And that's when they want to jump on board, right? The visionaries are looking at like barren land, and you're like, there's gold in the mills. And there's oil in that ground. But it's about the shaping time where people jump in on the party. But this is also where it gets confusing. And let me take a moment, if I could, to pause right there. I break down, and I think this will probably be really applicable to anybody in the church world, but it's also the most controversial, okay? So hang with me here. I hope I don't lose any of the audience right now. I differentiate between what is teaching, what is mentoring, and what is disciple making. And they're not the same. And while a teacher grows into eventual disciple maker, if they're intentional and purposeful, what they're doing over here in teaching is not inherently mentoring, and it's not inherently disciple making. However, a disciple maker will employ mentoring technique and teaching technique. So it can go right to left, but this way you build too. And again, read the book and it will unpack it some more. If you have questions for it, I can answer, but I don't want to give away too much. But that's very controversial, because we co-opt messaging and the language, and I don't want to be overly into semantics, but language denotes culture. So when you have people going, oh yeah, I had lunch with somebody, I'm discipling them. I'm saying, no, you had lunch with them. And you as a pastor in church, I'm sure you've said this, so forgive me if this is offensive. But when we talk about how do I know your stickiness, or whether you really want to be a part of this group, we talk about your time, talk about your talent, we talk about your treasure. And those are leading indicators, but not of discipleship. It's of membership. And we confuse membership and discipleship. It's not the same thing.
Right.
When we get into discipleship, we're asking about, biblical followership and submission and agreement and trust. But that's progressive. So I could go, Virgil, I just tapped your podcast. I'm listening to some of your sermons. I think you're a really good teacher. I'd like to explore more. Maybe over time, I'm like, I'd like to be mentored by you on how to do faith-based podcasts or leadership podcasts. And so it's very topic specific. But and I'm seeking you out as a student to a teacher. I'm seeking you out as a mentee to a mentor. But that's not discipleship. Discipleship is when you, Virgil, see something in me and you invite me to follow you. Now, number one, North American church, we don't invite that because we think it's cultish, dictatorship, controlling. And in the business sector, finding a solid apprentice is a long understood gift. It's a practice, and sometimes we're forgetting to do that, and sometimes we we just miss the boat. And then just kind of wrap up the rest of the chapters. The setting is about giving the diamond or the gem to its best possible setting in the right season. You could have believed when no one else believed. You can invest financially and your own time and gifting. You can elevate them and get them unstuck. But at the end of the day, their best setting may no longer be in your organization. And many leaders hoard gems when they should release that gem, and not reluctantly and not attacking their character. You should release that gem to their best place to shine. And then this is where most people, because discipleship's messy, developing people's messy, takes a lot of time. People are like, I did my part, I don't want to do it again. It's like parenting. You're like, now you're a grandparent. Now you're a great-grandparent. You never get to retire from it. And when you're developing people, you never retire from it. So that's a little bit of the book in a nutshell.
Yeah, I like that. Even what you just mentioned right now about the setting aspect, which is, giving them the best setting for where they are right now and also for the future. It's easier said than done, especially when somebody decides, I think my setting is elsewhere, but it takes some courage and it takes some confidence to really to not only receive people well, but maybe to release them well too. That's huge. That's huge.
And I think you have to. You have a question. Go ahead.
No. I want to hear what you have to say, and then I want to ask about something I read.
Yeah. So I was just going to say that I believe it's important for leaders to do all that prerequisite work, be introspective, know what they're trying to hire towards, and be honest up front. Hey, we're going to work on these things because I see this in you. I'm going to give you everything that I can give to level you up. But there's going to come a day when either I see that you need to go or you're going to feel it. And there's going to be probably a little bit of tension because we may feel that at different times. But if we've developed the love and the trust and the expectation that there is going to be a launch time, then we don't have to be in a tug-of-war match. So we need to guard the relationship. Right. We need to guard the trust. And at the end of the day, I will always be a resource to you if you want that, and we maintain that relationship. I think from a leader who's afraid of giving away their best talent or actually introducing possible competition into the market, I just don't think you lose when everybody knows that you're the one who develops diamonds. They just are like, I love Virgil. He's always given me my first step, and I can go to him at any time I want. I tell them I may not be geographically proximal to you all your life, but I'm going to do my best to be a resource for you, provided you still want that and we agree to it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. This is a great conversation. Leaders, I hope you're leaning in, taking some notes, and getting ready to get this book. I remember reading a little bit, kind of about this comparison. With the whole Uncut Gems theme of a diamond miner and a jewelry thief.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit, because there are two different approaches.
Yeah. Again, a jewelry thief. I know that's strong language, and I wrestled with it. I wasn't sure if thief was the right word, but at the end of the day, I thought it was a stronger comparison. So a jewelry thief is essentially an individual who is out there looking. It's like being at the playground when you're a kid and you're like, I'm not looking to get along with my teammates in PE and really build a solid team, and maybe we stay together over the year. They're not looking like that. They're just like, I need the person who's going to annihilate the other kids. I need the Highlander. There can only be one. It's like they're out there just looking for the highest skilled, what they perceive as the most talented, the most charismatic, the most relevant, whatever, in their mind. And then they believe that is the missing ingredient to success. When there's collateral damage that can be done when you build a team strictly around ego, high skill level competency, but no bedside manner. You know what I mean? No tact, no communication skills. I don't want to go so far as to say no character, because it could just be bad chemistry. There are environments where we're like, we need high producing hunters. But even hunters have to work with the support team. Like, let me use a sales support analogy. You don't need salespeople out there pushing for something the back end can't support. But you also don't need the support team going, why am I always in the office and salespeople are out and about? I don't think our jobs are the same. Well, they're not the same, and they're not compensated the same. So get over yourself and recognize what you agreed to, the pros and cons of that. So a jewelry thief essentially is looking to import skill and talent and not paying attention to culture. A diamond miner at the onset understands culture's king, is looking to work with what they already have, and only goes to import talent when it's absolutely necessary. And I would say the existing team would agree that it's missing, and they're in unison to it. One of the biggest issues leaders do is a few select at the top believe they need to import talent, but they failed to either develop in a second or third season. They fail to give opportunity for their existing talent to level up, and they prematurely go out, and what they communicate is, I don't believe in my internal talent. I don't believe you would have leveled up. Or they don't realize you were giving them opportunities, and they just, because the communication fails. A good diamond miner will communicate along the way until all the diamonds in that organization go, I think we need to bring somebody in from the outside to level up. That should be a shared decision on a team.
That's good. That's good. I imagine right now there's people leaning in, Paul. Obviously, you're causing us to think, and I think that your book is an excellent resource because of that. It's causing us to think about how we care about, how we select, how we treat, how we build up those people that are going to run with us mutually beneficially to this vision that God has put in our hearts, or that we feel that we want to pursue. As the author of this book, what are some of the maybe 2 or 3 prayers and goals that you have for everybody who reads this book, right? Everybody who taps into the resources that are connected to Uncut Gems. What is it that you would that would make you feel like, yes, this is why I wrote this book?
Yeah, I think if leaders would, parents, leaders, CEOs, whatever capacity that you're running, if you would just pause for a moment and be honest, investigate. Do you want to farm out your children to the public school system? Do you want to farm out your congregation and parishioners to other podcasts and YouTube streams versus your guidance and love? Do you want to farm out your culture to competing? I just pause for a moment and go, the long game is better. The investment is better. The DNA sowing and curating is better. And there's financial cost to a bad hire and then a quick fire as well. So even from a monetary standpoint, can we just pause and do that? And I'm coming to the leader from their perspective. That's a win for me if they'll just do that. And it will, the byproduct, the collateral will be engaged employees who feel your love and your investment. I think you're going to have, even if they do launch, because right now 2 years is like the average employment cycle before an employee goes on. And that used to be a leading indicator of lack of loyalty and involvement, but companies are not loyal the same way, and employees are not loyal in the same definition. People are going from opportunity to opportunity and to level up. So instead of reflecting on that as whether you like that dynamic or that metric or not is irrelevant. It's fact. And so you need to just go, how can I give the best of myself in 2 to 3 years? And can I do it in such a way that I leave them longing, not loathing? That they'll go back and go, I had a good thing, or I had a good thing and I don't miss it. I had a good thing and I built from it. I think that's what I want as a dad and a granddad for my kids. When my employees and the people that I consult, the companies, I want their name to be recognized as a great place of employment. In fact, that metric out there in the workforce is one of the main metrics. Is this a great place to work or does it suck? You know, I think if we just stop for a moment and do the right things up front, that would be a win to me. And the collateral is employees are going to say that. They're going to say, Virgil built into me and I've built into others. The fruit are the indicator of the root of that seed. The seed can't alter its DNA. Whatever you sow, you will reap. I mean, this is all biblical.
Yeah. I love it. I want Vertical Church, the church I pastor. I want that to be a place that people say, man, I love working here, or I wish I could work there, because that's the culture we have.
Yeah.
I love this. But before, Paul, before we share with people where they can connect with you, find more, and even get the book, you mentioned about your consulting. You have 76 Consulting, right?
Yeah.
What are the services you offer, and who do you help?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'll be very honest. I've led a very eclectic work life to get into spaces. And I did it because I was a scrapper, like I told you. I didn't feel like I had an audience. I didn't feel like I had pedigree. And I didn't have a poor self-esteem. I just felt I was out of markets, and then built my way into leadership there. So I do some basic organizational management. I do social media marketing, including SEOs and website build out and various things like that. I do videography and 360 camera work and ad work. So in the marketing communication standpoint. But my favorite is really just coming in with C-suite individuals or HR individuals and curating onboarding processes and how to work with your human capital. In fact, I have a gig out in Boise, Idaho shortly to work with leadership of multiple franchises, like take inventory of their culture and then go, where do we want to go from here? What's honestly going on? Because it's easy to just go sales, manufacturing, efficiencies, quicker production, keep your margins where they need to, high profitability, so on and so forth. But again, culture is just king. And if you want to monetize on it, if you want to multiply it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So that's 76 Consulting. Where can people go to connect with you, Paul, to maybe understand more about 76 Consulting and the services you offer? And also, by the way, reach out and get the book, Uncut Gems. Where can they go to connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm on social media, both on a personal level and under the banner of 76 Consulting. On Instagram, it's Texas Beaver, Beaver, the animal, no spaces, all lowercase, or 76 Consulting. Same with Facebook or Meta, 76 Consulting, or my name, Paul Godin, Godin. You can find me on LinkedIn, Paul Godin 76. Those are all social media channels. The book is actually on my sales page with Audience Tap. I think we're going to put it in the show notes because it's a little weird. It's basically tags and a little tail. Easier to just click the hyperlink in the show notes. But yeah, that's where I'm at, man.
Very, very cool. And I imagine, are there any other resources connected to the book, Uncut Gems?
Yeah. So I put together a paperback book. an Audible book that I read and that was a gift to my children who wanted to hear my voice. I'm sorry if you don't like my reading, but that was a gift to them. I have a study guide that goes along with it, and I put together a masterclass.
Cool.
And that masterclass is about five series. It's really awesome. And I am going to build from that masterclass a 10 or 11 month extension, so that working on this year or building into next year, I just felt that was on my heart as the next step. But for sure, when you go to that 76consulting.audience tap link, you're going to get, you can pick the products.
So good. That's so good. I want to just mention, whenever we mention resources, I always got to mention the AVAIL Journal. If you're watching or listening to this podcast, if you go to availjournal.com, availjournal.com, you could tap into a free trial subscription, because you need resources in your corner that are going to help you. AVAIL Journal is here to resource you, as well as Paul Godin with his newest book, Uncut Gems, Discovering, Developing, and Deploying the Diamonds Around You. Paul, this has been an awesome conversation. I'd love to hear maybe a final thought.
Yeah.
What do you want to leave all the leaders with as you finish this conversation?
Yeah, it's going to be really succinct. Do what's in the best interest of the diamonds in your sphere of influence, and you can't go wrong. It also is like taking ammunition out of their gun if they are jaded and want to attack you. But leaders always do what's in the best interest of those they care for, even when it means they come at you. That's just part of leadership. So toughen up.
Great advice. Drop the mic, hashtag drop the mic, Paul Godin.
Yeah.
Paul, I love this.
Hashtag toughen up.
On behalf of our AVAIL team, Paul, Dr. Sam Chand, Martijn Van Tilborg, everybody who works here to push this AVAIL truck, keep it moving forward. We're proud of you. We honor you. We're thankful for your obedience to the Lord in writing this book and putting it out there. We pray that God would not only open doors, but use you in great ways, as he has in the past and will continue to do. Thanks for being obedient, and we honor you and bless you right now in this project.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, everybody. I hope you've been encouraged with this conversation with Paul Godin. His most recent book, this is the book, Uncut Gems, Discovering, Developing, and Deploying the Diamonds Around You. Lean into this teaching, grab the book, maybe get a few copies, share with your leadership team. It's going to help you. And it is a privilege that you would join us every week on the AVAIL podcast. My name is Virgil Sierra, lead pastor of Vertical Church, your host right here on the AVAIL podcast, where we love to talk about leadership, to push you forward in your leadership, and to encourage you to be the best leader you can be. Hey, everybody, catch you next time right here on the AVAIL podcast. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the AVAIL podcast with our guest, Paul Godin. You can connect with Paul on social media under the handle @76consulting. For more leadership resources, check us out at theartofleadership.com. And make sure to claim your free trial subscription of the AVAIL Journal at availjournal.com. As always, I'm your AVAIL podcast host, Virgil Sierra. Muchas gracias. Thank you for connecting with us to learn the art of leadership here at the AVAIL podcast.